since we did a lot of work on willpower, and it is one of the most important things affecting your life, the quality of your life, the successes you'll have in your life. All right, so let's just jump right into it. There was an old study, I think it's from 2014, and it is called The Power of Willpower, Strategies to Unleash Willpower Resources. But I would like to talk about some things that I thought are very, very important that they mentioned in this study. Before I do that, I'm going to do that in a few minutes. I think we really need to go over some key concepts again. So key concepts, quickly. Volition, what a wonderful word. It's the ability to maintain focus and effort toward goals despite distractions. That's the current definition of volition. The original definition of volition was different. Volition was, as I said before, and as William James said in around 1910 or earlier, 1895, volition is attention plus effort. It's the instance, a single instance of willpower, of the will, the volition. So they've turned it into an ability to maintain focus and effort despite distractions. That was the original definition of willpower itself. Willpower, the strength and ability to carry out a task. So that's the current definition that these researchers, scholars are using in this study, and there was a few of them. William James, as you may recall, defined will or willpower, I'll interject that word, it's the capacity to sustain attention and action toward a chosen goal despite difficulties. It's the capacity, it is the capability, the will. And when you exercise that will, it's volition. When you make a decision, we said the fiat. That's 120 years back. So today they've, kind of silly putty or Play-Doh'd the definitions of these words, and probably for good reason. Self-discipline, you all know self-discipline. Using willpower routinely becomes a trait. Self-discipline. Self-control is using willpower to override thoughts, emotions, urges, or impulses. When you go get that candy bar or that tub of ice cream, no, I shouldn't do that. Willpower, that's self-control. Today, willpower, if you look at the study and the current literature, it includes a number of different subcomponents, which are attention, motivation, emotion, activation, cognition, and behavior. Why do I need to know that, Henry? Because one of them, in my opinion, and in William James and many other scholars' opinion, is much more important than all the rest. There was also Alexander Bain, if you remember, I did a video on that, and that was in the early 1900s. Emotion is the most important component here. I will argue that is so, for good reason. When you attach emotion, as you'll see some of these, you may read that some of these participants, these high-performing athletes, very successful individuals, they reported the emotional connection in so many different words, which is being a reason, component for their success. Emotion is so crucial. It's the difference between sticking through with something, committing, persevering, following through, succeeding. You have to link emotion to what you want to achieve and accomplish. If you're not doing that, you're not utilizing the most that you have, your capabilities. All right, so the next concept is the energy cost of willpower. Exercising willpower is mentally expensive, and it requires significant brain energy. Let me show you how. If you are really craving some ice cream in your freezer, it's just a craving, like you love ice cream, you have to really do some work on yourself not to go for that ice cream. put anything else in its place. If whatever it is that you absolutely feel like you must do, try to stop yourself from doing that. That's the energy that is required. You feel that it's a cognitive, it's a mental energy, and it causes fatigue. It drains you. It's like you're fighting with yourself. And it could be something with you and someone else. You feel obligated to do something for someone you love, but then logic or reason is pushing you in the opposite direction. There's an internal conflict, and it's very strenuous. So exercising willpower is mentally expensive, and using willpower reduces your capacity to regulate thoughts, feelings, and actions. So there is a capacity. There is a limit. It's a limited resource, and using it in one area reduces your ability to use it in others. Another important concept is that willpower is trainable, and today they are proving that it is. So it can be strengthened, and one of the study's authors suggested to strengthen your willpower that you control any single thing on a daily schedule. Control any single thing, like your posture, your finances, doing something that isn't so easy to do, that requires some coaxing, some effort. Do it on a daily basis, you strengthen your willpower. And all acts of willpower reinforce each other. It's another point. All acts of willpower reinforce each other, which means that as you get better at doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, you overcome laziness, you overcome routine, you overcome being tired, you overcome, we'll talk later about it, comfort zone. It strengthens your willpower, and it will reinforce your usage of willpower in other areas of your life. Okay? All acts of willpower reinforce each other. So also maintaining an energy balance is super important. Rest, diet, stress reduction, they support willpower, they really do. If you are tired, if your brain is drained, it's the end of the night, nothing is gonna work. Not only willpower, nothing works. All right, next, motivation and commitment. All right, so here's where we get into the study's participants, and these I think were from the top performing athletes that perform better than average. So they report needing, so they were interviewed and asked why were they so successful at what they were doing. And they reported that they have this need to achieve, that they needed to prove themselves, or they had to fulfill a duty, or some idea or act of justice, So that is deeply emotional, right? Needing to achieve, to prove yourself to others or to your own self, to fulfill some duty or obligation. These are real deep purposes. The key word here is deep. It's a deep purpose. It's a deep desire, deep drive. That was what some of them reported. Others reported an inner voice that drives their personal needs, goals, and purposes. They had an inner voice that helped them. Obviously, it was positive, it was supportive, it wasn't negative. We need our inner voices to be supportive. Also, they reported a commitment to an objective being more important than the objective itself. The commitment, the promise with your promise with yourself or promise with others, the commitment is more important than the objective, what it is you're working forward towards. The participants also had their own tactics for boosting willpower that the study's authors found out through interviews, investigation. They used positive affirmations. Positive affirmations, these top performing athletes reported they used that to combat negative thoughts with positive self-talk and distraction techniques, okay? Some of them employed chunking, which is breaking objectives down into smaller, manageable pieces and tackling them one by one. Besides that, so chunking is great because if you have some large goal or objective, let's say you have significant financial goals, break it down into chunks. You want to start a business or a new initiative, break it down into chunks. This is very, very helpful feedback here from the participants. An emotional connection is the third thing that some of them said. They exhibited with the commitments. Emotions and mind-body responses play a larger role than mental processes. I said this in an earlier video. Emotions are crucial. And visualization. So some participants visualize the challenge ahead to prepare themselves mentally. Fantastic. I actually would have thought differently. I thought they'd visualize the end state, the successful end state. But they actually visualize the challenge ahead, so they prepare themselves mentally. That is wonderful. So you win just by visualizing, whether it's the positive outcome or challenges along the way. You're going to win either way. Visualization is key, very important. So I shared those 4 tactics with you guys that the participants use to boost their willpower: positive affirmations, chunking, emotional connection, and visualization. Great. Now the study's authors identified 4 key processes for mobilizing willpower. Okay, so I gave you 4 from the participants. I gave you 4. I'm give you 4 right now from the authors. One of them is committing, making promises to oneself or others, and you should tie it to a deeper purpose or a need. Goals are secondary to the tactics for committing. So committing. The second key process the authors identified was deciding, creating emotional connections to commitments. We just said that. We touched on that. Visualizing challenges and acting quickly to build momentum. They called that deciding. I find that, I don't know. It's kind of a vague, it's a loose connection there, but they lumped it under deciding. Emotional connection to commitments, to making promises, visualizing challenges. The third one is actions influencing. So accepting negative feelings, breaking objectives into small steps, focusing on controllable factors, and using positive affirmations or distractions. So accepting negative feelings, breaking objectives into small steps. Great. And finally, rewarding and learning. So they gave a lot of treatment about that. Celebrating small victories, promising yourself rewards. Remember that dopaminergic system, whatever it is, reward system in our brain and body. Celebrate your small victories, promise yourself rewards, and also building an emotional library by reflecting on your past feelings in the challenges that you had. So this uncomfortable, negative feelings, whatever, you build that library. When you get to them, you'll be better able to deal with them and overcome them and move beyond them. So you don't have to use too much willpower to deal with them. Pay attention to this. I think the single most important thing they mentioned in this entire paper of 20 to 25 pages is expanding your comfort zone. They aren't the only ones to talk about this. Many others have talked about this. It is crucial. Expanding your comfort zone. Regularly stepping outside of your comfort zone is a powerful way to develop willpower. It's very interesting how they made the link to willpower. It's got many other benefits, stepping out of your comfort zone. So what that means, the more technical jargon, is operating beyond the anxiety-neutral conditions. Your conditions, the anxiety-neutral conditions, you operate beyond them because that is your comfort zone. Experimenting with new behaviors and expanding your effective boundaries. It's so important. If you can remember a time where you were outside of your comfort zone, you were so on point, you were so alert, you were firing on all cylinders. You have to be uncomfortable, then you know you're outside of your comfort zone, and that's where magical things can happen. We don't talk too much about magic here, but All right, they talk a little bit about the physical foundations, right? Diet, rest, physical exercise, essential for maintaining and strengthening willpower. It truly is. I mean, it's for strengthening and maintaining anything. Every part of your brain and body and everything you do in life, it depends on your health and well-being. I don't know how successful you can be in life if that's not in at least some basic minimal state of repair. Diet, rest, physical exercise. The more you exercise, the better off you'll be. So the conclusion, I found, it's in the study, there was a quote. I thought it was a fantastic quote that drives home this whole idea of emotionality being behind willpower. So this came from the Upanishad, which is one of the oldest Hindu philosophical scriptures from the 7th or 6th century BC. That's a long time ago, right? Thousands of years ago. Here's what it said. It's translated into English. And this, I'm going to leave you with this today. You are what your deep driving desire is. As your desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. And as your deed is, so is your destiny. Thank you. Look out for the next installment.